You want to know how I let the HOA president steal my boat? Because I wanted her to. That's right, I didn't just catch her trespassing, I set the stage and rolled out the red carpet. See, after 22 years wearing a uniform, living through deserts, jungles, and the kind of bureaucracy that could make you weep, all I wanted was a little quiet. That's why I ended up at this old lakeside cabin. My uncle left me far from neighbors, rules committees, no one arguing about mailbox colors, just water, black coffee, and peace. For 3 whole days, I actually had it. Then bam. Enter Skylar Campbell, queen of the HOA, her sandals squeaking on the gravel, clutching her clipboard like it held the 10 Commandments. She marched right up, told me the lake was community property while staring at my dock. I just nodded at my new no trespassing sign. She did not appreciate that. You ever see someone's smile turn predatory? Hers did, like she was about to pounce, but still trying to look friendly. Good morning, I'm Skylar with Lakeview Serenity HOA, she announced, drawing out those letters like she was saying the FBI. I played along, introduced myself, let her rattle off her speech about shared stewardship, community events, historically accessible shoreline. I pointed at the beer can in the weeds and the fire pit I dismantled the day before. Your history leaves a lot of traces. She laughed, fake and cold. We did the dance here talking about community access, me reminding her I'm not in her HOA. I watched her click her pen, adjust her sunglasses, and try to act like she was still in control. She offered me a spot in their watercraft rotation so I could share my dock. Nope, not happening. She pushed harder, asked me to leave my gates open, even offered a donation box for strangers trampling through. I couldn't help but laugh. You want me to unlock my property so people can traipse around and I get tips for damages? Yeah, that happened. She tried the guilt trip too. If you close off the shoreline, it creates friction, complaints, meetings, citations. I told her if someone climbs my fence, it creates a 911 call. She blinked, regrouped, and made her threat sound polite, jotting notes on her clipboard for later ammunition. I watched her march away, sandals scraping, and called after her. Does your clipboard have a tab for trespassing? She threw one last smile at me, all teeth and left. 5 minutes later, there's an HOA flyer under a rock by my mailbox. Community guidelines you'll love. Sure. Right into the burn barrel. Peace smells like cedar smoke and hot coffee, by the way. I started a Karen surveillance log that day just for laughs. 14/10. HOA president tried to schedule my dock for weddings. Outcome denial, raised eyebrow. 14/25, threatened meeting, citations. Outcome reminded her of the gate and 911. By evening, I'd installed 2 steel gates and a bell at the lakeside path, just a little reminder that boundaries exist for a reason. The first night that bell rang, I knew I'd made my point. If peace had a warning, that was it. But Skylar wasn't done. The next morning, she showed up again, clipboard in hand. Smiling that HOA smile, Benjamin Hope, I'm not catching you at a bad time. I told her didn't stop her. She told me everyone around the lake contributes. I looked up, contributes or gets milked. She didn't flinch. Notice my new gates reminded me. Blocking community access can lead to misunderstandings. I told her gates aren't walls. They're sentences that end conversations. She scribbled more notes, sniffed, warned me that it would be a shame if the lake lost its unity. I told her, don't forget people also use it for trash disposal. She twitched, tried to guilt me into cooperating. I told her, because I've met my neighbors. Her glasses slid just enough for me to see her eyes calculating and cold. We'll see about that, she muttered. She always said that. The days started to fall into a rhythm. Coffee repairs, then the faint hum of HOA activity on the horizon. They sent volunteers next 2 women in matching polos, both armed with clipboards and chihuahuas. We're here to discuss shoreline beautification. I told them to read the sign. This means you. They left in a huff. And 5 minutes later, I got a text. It would really help community morale if you left the gate unlocked. I replied with a photo of my gate lock. Morale remains secure. Skylar escalated flyers in every mailbox. Help preserve our shared lake access, with a photo of my dock and the caption, traditionally open to all. I printed a new sign, private property trespassers will be prosecuted, including clipboard carriers. Next day, Skylar brought reinforcements, a full suburban tribunal. They accused me of creating an unwelcoming aesthetic. I told them it's an accurate one. She warned me, "You'll regret this attitude." I said, "Only if you bring a boat." That night I couldn't sleep, not out of worry, but curiosity. I'd learned something from my years in the military. People like Skylar don't stop at no. They probe, test, escalate. She was looking for the weak spot. So I built something she couldn't talk her way around: my boat Ghost. Matte black electric, more security features than a bank vault. I rigged it with a loop mode. If someone started it without the code, it'd lock the controls and cruise slow figure eights across the lake until I reset it. Non-lethal, controlled, and honestly downright humiliating for anyone foolish enough to try. Friday morning, I parked my truck down the road, left the gates just barely ajar, and waited. When the alerts buzzed, gate breach, motion detected, unauthorized boat ignition, I knew the fish had bitten. I pulled up the camera feed, and there she was. Skylar in disguise, hoodie and jeans, sneaking onto my dock, glancing around like a guilty teenager. She started ghost grinning until the controls locked. The boat eased into loop mode, spinning gentle circles out in the open water, while Skylar panicked, shouting for help, waving her arms, trapped by her own entitlement. I called Deputy Howard, sent him the live footage and coordinates. Unauthorized use of private vessel in progress. Copy that, we're on our way. I watched as the sheriff's cruiser rolled up. By the time they arrived, Skylar had made at least 20 laps, looking seasick, pride more bruised than her knees. Howard called out, "Ma'am, you're trespassing." She argued she was ensuring community safety. Howard just raised an eyebrow. "You blocked the dock better than he ever could." They offered to press charges. I said, "Not yet. She's learned more in one loop than any courtroom could teach." Howard took the video as evidence, said the DA was going to frame it. We all laughed except for Skylar, who glared daggers as they let her off, still protesting. "You'll regret this." "Get in line," I told her. "It's a long one." Of course, next came the lawsuit, Skylar's lawyer claiming reckless use of a dangerous device. My lawyer, Donna Carter, calmly dropped the owner's manual for Ghost and all my paperwork on the table. The boat is Coast Guard compliant with safety protocols and life jackets. The property is outside HOA jurisdiction. The mediator dismissed Skylar's complaint, and Donna threatened counterclaims for trespassing and defamation. The HOA's Facebook post didn't help Skylar's case. By week's end, the board had voted Skylar out as president. I got a letter from Cheryl Bennett, one of the quieter board members, thanking me for doing what none of them could, standing up to Skylar. The for sale sign went up in Skylar's yard. Her beige SUV disappeared and the lake was quiet again. I'd like to say that was the end, but peace never lasts long around an HOA. Skylar tried a second complaint, then a civil hearing claimed I'd weaponized technology against her. The judge heard the security footage, listened to her testimony, then sighed and dismissed the case. Ordered her to retract her online posts and never set foot on my dock again. By the following week, Skylar was gone for good. The HOA reformed its charter, reaffirmed private property rights, and for once, everybody breathed easier. You know, peace isn't something you find. It's something you defend, sometimes with paperwork, sometimes with a little engineering, and sometimes with the patience to let the enemy walk right into their own mess. I learned that lesson out there on the dock, coffee in hand, the lake finally calm, and the only drama coming from Dennis the raccoon rooting through my trash. These days I let him have at it. At least Dennis never tried to schedule a wedding on my property. So here's my question for you. Ever had to stand up to a Skylar in your life? Did you win, or did you just get tired of fighting? Drop your stories in the comments. Let's see who's got the best HOA war tale. And if you enjoyed this ride, you know what to do. Hit subscribe, because around here, Justice always comes back around.